especially with the GH7, like the amount of features and like power you get out of that camera is unbelievable. Someone telling you it's awesome, right? Like the brand didn't convince me other than me using their products, right? Like I've been a fan since the GH3. I mean, Micro Four Thirds, for instance, is very like, you know, small, compact, easy to, you know, run and gun with. And that's like really what like skateboard filming is. And
a lot of YouTube filmmakers have been saying that the full frame is the future and Micro Four Thirds is dead. Well, in today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking to a talented filmmaker who's been shooting skateboard content for the past 25 years with some of the best skateboarders in the world. He's also a LUMIX ambassador and primarily a Micro Four Thirds shooter. That is none other than Kyle Camarillo. We're going to be diving into a bunch of different topics into the skateboarding niche, what it's like being a LUMIX ambassador, and how and why he still shoots on Micro Four Thirds cameras. But without further ado, Kyle, what's up, man?
what's up, man? Thanks for having me on the podcast. I listen. I'm a listener.
Dude, that's so sick. I said your last name right, correct?
You did. You nailed it.
Okay. Well, we're going to just dive into it. I'm going to start getting into the questions. Some of these first questions I like to call my softball questions just to warm people up.
Sure.
But I am interested to hearing, how did you get into the LUMIX ecosystem as whole? What was that first LUMIX camera for yourself?
The first time I kind of heard about LUMIX was the GH2. Two skateboard media guys, a filmmaker and a photographer, I don't know, had some sort of setup with LUMIX, and they did a marketing piece for photography on the GH2 and videography on the GH2, and it was really like eye-opening for myself because I had been so, you know, camcorders, really straightforward like video stuff, and this little camera was so technically advanced for what I was doing. And to have these two guys, Atiba Jefferson and Ty Evans, put out this piece that showed you what you could do with this camera, I was so excited. I was so hooked, just because, not that, I don't know, I'm always looking for something new. I'm always looking for like new ways to shoot. Not necessarily like, you know, the biggest, best or whatever, but just stuff that's interesting to me, or an interesting way to show something. So when that came out, I was really excited. I didn't buy one of the GH2s at the time for the only reason of, I don't think I just had like the ability to just dive fully in. I was still shooting so much stuff camcorder style for skateboarding, which was, and still to this day is, a very huge part of skateboarding. But once the GH3 came out, I picked that up and haven't stopped since then.
You kept shooting on, you know, GH3. Did you have the GH4, GH5? Did you follow that full lineup?
Dude, every single one. 5S, 5.2, whatever, you know, all of them since the 3. Like, because even if it was like a tiny bit better, the price point is so good that you could sell your old one and you could get the new one for like, you know, $300 or $400 more dollars after you sell your old one, or something along those lines. And like, for doing something professionally, like spending a couple $100 on a camera every, I don't know, year or so, it was no-brainer, you know what I mean? And those little tiny features, some of them being small, but all of them benefited me in some sort of way, enough to be like, yeah, easy, like trade this one out, on to the next. And then like a lot of times I would sell the old cameras to like buddies of mine that I could kind of like help show them how I used it, or how to use it and how they can use it. So it was kind of a cool like way to like keep that going and you know, get other people moving too.
And do you still own your first GH3, or did you sell that one?
No, I wasn't. I think at that point it was definitely like, I got to sell this so that I can get the next one.
Get the next one, yeah. But now definitely. Probably looking back, it would be cool to have that first one, but I still regret not having my G7.
Sure, yeah. I forget who it was on your podcast that was saying that like they buy a bunch of GH5s to this day. And they still have a GH3 for like nostalgic purposes, and like that would be pretty cool. I do have like one of my Sony VX1000s still, that was like the skateboard camera. I've had it cleaned, I've had it repaired, I've had it like all ready to go, and it just sits on the sits in the background.
Hey, it's a cool weighted paper. So I guess kind of flash forward into now, what is kind of your current Lumix camera setup and kind of what's your go-tos?
Yeah, sure. Like right now, easy's go-to is the GH7. I mean, it honestly could have been a GH6 because, or even a GH5 for everything I really need. But like easy go-to GH7 with the 12 to 35 G lens and the 35 to 100. Just that little package is so perfect. It's like versatile, small, like, you know, compact, you know, doesn't weigh much. You can just go. You can just go. You, like, there's no limits in that world. Like, especially with the GH7, like the amount of features and like power you get out of that camera is unbelievable.
Now, I'm kind of interested as we kind of get into more of the topic of today's episode, like shooting content, using Micro Four Third cameras, the advantages for, you know, outside the YouTube filmmaking niche, which most people say Micro Four Third cameras are dead, but obviously not, because, you know, there's a ton of people like yourself using them professionally for a bunch of different advantages that the professionals on YouTube might not use it. So I'm curious if you could just kind of take us back into like how you got into skateboarding filming and like how that ended up transitioning to, you know, professionally doing it and skating and shooting skateboarders, doing probably the craziest things that, you know, so many people are doing these days.
Sure. I really started with, I had a small introduction to photography through my grandfather, and I actually had a photography class in 7th grade, which was really crazy. And then that kind of carried on to photography class in high school. And at that whole time, growing up skateboarding, being super just obsessed with skateboarding, you know, videos are such a huge part of that world. So my dad was the one who had the video camera. So I went and, hey, Dad, I'm gonna borrow a camera and I'm gonna go film me and my friends in, you know, 6th, 7th grade. And we're just filming each other. I wasn't really like the guy, it was just that I brought the camera. So eventually, like, I was just got inspired by a lot of skateboard videos, mostly like ones by Ty Evans and this guy French Fred, and was like, hey, like let's like up our, let's just make this cooler and better and just like having fun. I mean, we're filming each other at this point, but just got inspired by all that and wanted to make a video with me and my friends, and that was kind of the start of it. And that just, skateboarding is so small in a way to where like if you're in a community, there's usually somebody who's maybe sponsored by a skate shop or maybe sponsored by a skateboard brand, who knows. Even if it's just like a little flow opportunity. I was lucky to have a buddy of mine be sponsored by, you know, the shop and a skateboard brand. And so I started filming him just to kind of like do it, I guess, just because it was like, oh, I'll help you, you know, and just fell in love with it. And you start working for one brand, and then, I mean, you don't work for them, sorry. You start contributing footage to one guy, and then you meet the other guys on the team, and then they, you know, it's just a continual progress of meeting people and getting introduced to more things, and yeah, finally getting a job in skateboarding, and then working on X video, this video, that video, this brand, moving to that brand, and that's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I guess for people who aren't in the skate industry like myself, so I'm completely noobish at this topic in general.
Sure. Yeah,
but I feel like in the skateboard industry, not only obviously there is, you know, moments where you are using your tripods and your on sticks and you are doing follows, but at the same time, you also have to be a really talented skater yourself, following these people if you're on a skateboard, on a fisheye lens, and like capturing them. So have you just been skating your entire life then?
Yeah, probably. I think I started skateboarding 6th grade. So anytime after that, yeah, it's just like, it's funny. It's, you know, it's like riding a bike, you know, once you do it for so long, it's just, it doesn't leave you. So, I mean, I wouldn't say you have to be super talented on a skateboard to be able to do that, but I mean, you definitely have to, you know how to ride a skateboard to a solid extent. I mean, there's some guys that are extremely talented in like fisheye, rolling, filming, which is absolutely incredible. So, I mean, yeah, it definitely takes some talent, and there's definitely guys that have shot amazing stuff like that.
Now, I know you just had this like really big piece that just came out. Is that your most proud project that you've ever done to this point?
Oh, wow, most proud. Yeah, so we just released a video called Intervals for New Balance. And yeah, it was a big video in terms of the caliber of skating, the guys that were in the video, the time spent on it. You know, it's a larger scale video, but I don't know, man. No matter what you do with the production side of something, obviously in skateboarding, it's all about the skateboarding. So it really relies on and completely is to the applause of the three guys, Thiago Lemos, Brandon Westgate, Jamie Foy. I mean, their skateboarding talents are just top notch. So most proud, I mean, I'm super proud of it. I don't know if I have a video I'm most proud of. I mean, this one is great, and it wasn't made solely by me. Like, I directed it and I shot as much as I could, and I went on a bunch of trips with the team or with these three guys. But I had so much help from three other filmers that were like kind of more constantly on the road with the guys and they're beside me or on their own, helping me shoot it. So less of like a solo project, but I'm super, super proud of it. Yeah, I'm super proud of it. Yeah. There's been an amazing response to it from a lot of the skateboard industry, a lot of filmmakers that I look up to, especially within the skateboard world and outside of the skateboard world, and that's been incredibly humbling and an honor to hear some of the things that have been said. So yeah, man, I'm definitely very proud of it. I mean, I've had other videos that have come out that I've worked even closer on as like a solo person or collaborated with like one other person. I wouldn't say that I'm more or less proud of those, but this one is definitely something special. So yeah.
And I feel like, okay, well, in this part is going to be the hard transition to coming back to LUMIX, being the LUMIX Creators podcast.
Let's do it.
I am curious to like flash back on how you became a LUMIX ambassador, because there is a little bit of a difference. I'm technically an official creator, whatever that means these days. I have no idea. Still trying to figure that out myself. But meanwhile, you are a proper LUMIX ambassador. So how did you become a LUMIX ambassador? What did that kind of look like? What did you do, and what do you kind of do now in that sense?
Sure, that's funny. I didn't really know that there's like different categories or whatnot, and I don't even know if that even really, is a thing. I think we're all just, kind of here. I think it's pretty natural, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's what we shoot on, and I think that the brand sees both of us as people that can share with people how to use the product, why we think the product is awesome, regardless of someone telling you it's awesome, right? Like, the brand didn't convince me other than me using their products, right? Like, I've been a fan since the GH3. Just with shooting for so long on LUMIX stuff, and just being so excited about it, and following their journey and the constant satisfaction of their releases and the features and the stuff that they pay attention to is what really like kept me going towards that. I mean, there's great brands, there's tons of great cameras out there, but I just kept being sold on the features that really spoke to me, that I was looking for. I mean, Micro Four Thirds, for instance, is very like small, compact, easy to run and gun with, and that's like really what like skateboard filming is, and it's really like documentary almost. We don't go to a location most of the time knowing what the light's going to be like, what we're even, how it's going to go, what lens I need to shoot it with, or etc. There's so many things. You just show up to somewhere and it's just like canvas. Okay, how am I shooting this? What's the route? So that whole Micro Four Thirds and small mirrorless bodies, steady shot, or not steady shot, image stabilization. Sometimes I do that with using Sony VX1000s for so long, because that was called the steady shot.
Yeah.
I get that in my head all the time. Things like that. So I've been using it for so long and been so stoked on it. I reached out to, I can't remember. I think I reached out to one of the guys at LUMIX, and I just said, hey, you know, I love the brand. I think you guys nail it. I've loved every camera, and I sent them a reel of, you know, here's all the stuff I've done with every one of your cameras to this day, and that I'm working on these projects for New Balance and for, you know, these other brands, and just want to say, you know, I'm here if you ever need something. And at the time, I think they were kind of going over their ambassador program and trying to, you know, just revamp it, I guess. And so it was kind of like the right place, the right time, and they were excited about my enthusiasm. And so it just kind of was, you know, easy. It was just like, oh, perfect, we're looking for that, and you came right to us, so that's perfect, let's do it. So
No, I feel like earlier days when LUMIX wasn't like a super well-known brand, and I say that to an extent, pre-Face Detect autofocus, this is what I guess I basically mean. I feel like the people that really loved the LUMIX cameras and loved like the ecosystem, the menu settings, the other features that all of these LUMIX cameras have, that, you know, even Sony is just starting to get into some of these, like shutter angle. You know, LUMIX has had it for a long time, and now with the growing popularity, but it's just like, it's kind of cool being in that club of like, you know, I kind of liked LUMIX before LUMIX became cool type of situation. Like I knew there's the secret sauce, and like I had a shoot where I was doing this video training, and this company that like hired me out just bought a bunch of video equipment. They just asked if I could train, you know, basically social media people who know nothing of video, and like they got Sony cameras, and I'm like going through the menu systems. I'm like, this is horrendous. Like it is so bad. Like I'm just like, all the buttons, like how things work, I'm like, oh, it just doesn't feel like it makes sense to me based off, you know, my years of experience with LUMIX cameras. But yeah, that's super cool. And I feel like you said, I feel like it's kind of a merge of the creator of whatever program that's called, the LUMIX Backstage creators and the ambassadors now, where it is kind of similar. It's like LUMIX is just here supporting all of us as a whole, you know, whether that be paid shoots or paid opportunities, lending gear for a long time, for allowing us to shoot with their gear, you know, obviously saving a bunch of money in our own bank accounts. But I am also curious to hear kind of, you tend to gravitate towards Micro Four Thirds systems as a whole, but you still have used the S5 2X and full frame though too, correct?
mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
So I'm curious to kind of see, when do you decide that I'm going to pick up a Micro Four Third camera and shoot this with this type of camera like the GH7 versus, you know, shooting with a full frame camera like the S5 2X? Because it does make a difference, like you said, you know, a 12-35 versus this chunky boy, the 24-70. This is on the Pixis. Don't tell LUMIX. I'm just kidding.
No, sure, man. I mean, yeah, there's a huge difference in size and weight, right?
Right. So I'm curious, when do you decide to pick the Micro Four Third camera versus when you're picking full frame?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, one, travel. You know, we travel a lot for all these shoots, right? Like, I don't know, just the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, it's been like Thailand, Brazil, Spain. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of, and it's very run and gun situations, right? We have, you know, I got my backpack and like a camera roller, and we're skating through the streets, and we're like, oh, we're gonna go here, let's go over there, and here's all my equipment, and I can just go with it, right? That's the time when it's Micro Four Thirds, and I want to be able to have the option to have everything at my disposal, right?
Right.
You know, it was so good for like a gimbal if I used a gimbal, but you know, that image stabilization has gotten so good that you almost don't need that anymore.
Yeah, you don't even need.
I've definitely used it a lot less. And then also the S5 II body and the G9 II body are the same exact body. So, you know, it's not that much of a difference really, but obviously like in the lenses, there is a big difference, right? So what do I lose if I go Micro Four Thirds versus full frame? I mean, it's the usual suspects, right? A little less depth of field and a little less low light capability. Those aren't two things that that matter to me when I'm out shooting. Especially, let's remove skateboarding from the subject, and it's just documentary filmmaking, right? Like, you're not really trying to shoot these, like, it's not a short film, it's not commercial production, like, it's a different way of shooting things, right? So for me, I don't need those things per se. If we're at home and we're shooting something that is more planned out, a little more production based, it still could be skateboarding, then I might gravitate towards the full frame stuff. I mean, I still 4K, 120 frames per second. I mean, to me, I'm just like, dude, that's crazy, and it looks incredible with audio. I've even shot 1080, 240 frames per second, and you would think, holy shit, 1080? Are you really speaking 1080? But yeah, man, like, when it goes onto YouTube and everything, and if that's your final spot, dude, it looks fantastic.
And especially on Instagram, everything gets downsampled to 1080 as is.
Totally. So am I really concerned about, things like that when I have all those features in one little camera? I mean, it's no contest, man.
Right. And especially if you do also the zoom lenses and you want,
yeah.
I believe it's a 100 to 400 on the Micro Four Third, which equivalent is a 200 to 800, and it's about the same size as the 24 to 70 for full frame.
Yeah.
No, like, you can't get that anywhere.
That's like 100% a really good point. Like, that lens is crazy, and I'm borrowing it actually right now, and it is psycho. And I've taken it on a couple of trips, and it's psycho to the point of it's unusable sometimes. You're like, it's too far. Like, it goes to what'd you say? It goes to 400, and like, I've rarely gone above like 300, just because it's just like, dude, I'm gonna have to be like a mile down the road.
Right. Yeah.
But it's
you can
cool.
Get
it's
some
super
really cool. Like, I believe that's called the long lens effect, right?
Yeah, I don't know what the effect is called, but yeah, that compression.
Yeah, the long lens. Yeah, the compression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's incredible and super fun. Like that's, to me, like, that's really exciting. Like, you could go and, let's say you don't have to buy that lens, but you go rent that lens, and it's not like, man, I've shot like a baseball game, right? I shot like some Giants games back in the day, and shooting with like the full frame, like Nikon 400 mil and like 500 mil, and they're like, this big, and you have to have a monopod with
chunky.
it. Like, it's incredible, great image. But like, to be able to throw that whole situation into like a lens this big and like just throw it in your bag. Like, I've taken it to like Thailand and just like, I'll just see what happens. And I use it 3 times in the whole time, but it wasn't a nuisance having it in my backpack.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like, that's also a good point. Like, even for a lot of sport photographers or filmmakers, like, I shoot a lot of pickleball content personally, and like, for the professionals. And yeah, that lens would be perfect because I can do it on the GH7 handheld with the electronic stabilization. Don't need any type of stabilization, and able to get up to an 800 equivalent focal length in full frame terms. And it's like nuts, like how much reach you can have with that. So I guess I have one more question for you, Kyle, today. But before we do that, as we're landing the plane, where can people check you out and see all the good stuff that you post?
Sure. I think my probably best way of seeing stuff most up to date, most consistent, is through Instagram, and it's just my name, Kyle Camarillo. I do have a YouTube channel. I'm working on it. It's
there we go.
It's slow, but it's it's like, I do a lot of work for New Balance. And so it's I can't really like just repost stuff that I've built for them just straight onto YouTube, which is what I'm paid to make for them. So there's kind of like a lot of my time on making video content goes to other people. So to put stuff on my own channel is it's just hard to find time, but it's definitely a place where things will be. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I guess my last question for you today, if someone only had to pick one, they had to get into the entire lens system, the entire camera bodies, they had nothing, completely from scratch, who would you personally recommend getting a Micro Four Third camera, like the GH7, for example? And then who would you recommend getting a full frame camera like the S5 2X?
I think it really depends on like what's most important to you. If it's I just want to have a small backpack with a small amount of gear, and simple, but have tons of power, it'd be Micro Four Thirds. If you don't need high frame rates and you care more about, you know, depth of field and low light, and you don't mind having potentially a larger bag, although like, you know, like the S9, like, dude, you don't, super tiny, so you don't need a lot of gear. Dude, I should grab that thing really quick. Hold on, let me grab this thing really quick. I've been using this thing with the with this Polar Pro lens. It's like their light leak lens, and like look how rad this is. Like you've got like full frame just around your neck, man. Like, yeah, this is smaller than the GH7. So yeah, I don't know, man. I it's kind of hard, but I think those are like the real issues, right? Like you know, that compactness plus power, you lose a little bit of like depth of fieldness, but I mean, it also depends. Like if you're shooting with that 35 to 100, you can get a really nice fall off. So I don't know, man. It is a toss up, but I think there's so much information about cameras and suggestions and what people want. And I think it really just boils down to like, if you're looking for a camera, you should be looking at what you want out of that camera. What features do you need? And that's really it. And for me, I'm still so impressed with the Micro Four Thirds system that that's been my go-to. But I mean, man, yeah, the S5 II, S5 2X, S9, loving it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
If you guys are interested in seeing if you should invest into Lumix, you can check out that episode right here. YouTube recommends you might like this episode right here. Until next one, guys, peace.